What up, peeps? It's your girl, Dodge, coming back to you for Real Takes. Today I'll be doing a review to the movie titled Widows. This is directed by Steve McQueen, also starring, let me go down the list because this is a superb cast we have here. We have, of course, Liam Neeson, Viola Davis, Colin Farrell, we have Cynthia Erivo, Michelle Rodriguez, Robert Duvall, I want to say her name is Elizabeth Debicki. Trying to make sure I'm not forgetting any names. There's some other people. Oh yes, Daniel Kaluuya, and then we have Brian Tyree Henry, to name a few. There's some other people who are actually in this movie as well, and I'll kind of get to that. Now, this movie is based around four, of course, widows who basically are left with a debt due to their husband's criminal activities. They do not know each other, so it becomes very interesting them having to work together to deal with this, because due to the fact that they stole money from a local black guy who's at the time running for office, I think it was like 2 million whatever. It basically, of course, got away, whichever. Now they're stuck to deal with it, and they have to deal with the wrath of the guy by the name of Jamal, played by Brian Tyree Henry in this movie, and also his brother, played by Daniel Kaluuya. His name in this one is, I think, Jemete. So yes, this was a very interesting movie. I enjoyed it. Now, if you all recall, I was told about the miniseries that came on back in the 80s. I think the one that was considered a UK TV miniseries, but then I remember the one from the 2000s. I want to say it came out either 2001, 2002, Widows, starring Mercedes Rule. I knew Brooke Shields in it and Rosie Perez. I do recall that show. I don't remember the one from the 80s. So yes, but that's kind of somewhat of the premise of this, whatever. Of course, it's being in a movie type of setting compared to the actual TV miniseries. Now, for this one, I will say besides the cast, I did enjoy it, but the fact is the pacing at times was rather slow for me. I noticed it was a lot of interconnected scenes, like in the case of Viola Davis's character within the movie. It seemed that we were always getting little flashbacks. Of course, losing her husband, Liam Neeson, the character played by Harry, it was always showing things of that nature when it came to her and her character. Now, for Michelle Rodriguez's character, she knew her husband was doing some things, whichever, didn't know to what extent, whatever. She had a particular business she was running, whichever. And unbeknownst to her, of course, that debt, of course, with that place was not paid. So, of course, when she comes into this whole situation with Viola Davis's character, she has a bigger reasoning for what she needs to do, because now her husband's gone, whatever. She's trying to support her 2 kids, whatever. She has the mother-in-law breathing down her neck, trying to give her all this grief like it was her fault, whatever. Like her son is not grown. She's the reason he's dead, whichever. I'm like, okay. Then you have the character played by Elizabeth Debicki, her husband, which was played by another notable mention, John Berthal. He was one of the main guys who was killed, whatever, in the fire. His character, honestly, was very interesting for the simple fact it wasn't in there that long. Of course, like I said, they end up getting, shot or burned up. If you all saw the trailer, whatever, they're in their van or whatever. His character, just from what she gives us from their vibe, is kind of handsy, a little physical, whatever. Doesn't like ask a lot of questions answered, whatever, and all that. Then tries to, play it off by being affectionate, whatever, and all, to mask the fact that he's an abuser. Now, for Cynthia Erivo's character, let's just say it like this. Honestly, she was not a widow. Her character honestly comes into fold when one of the widows does not want to partake in whatever they're planning to do. She wants no part of it. So that's when she comes into play. I'll put it like that. But I will say, overall, like the action sequences, the parts where they're planning the heist that they're going to get this money, whatever, was nice to plan. I like how they would show the characters, Elizabeth Debicki's character, of course, and you getting to know her. She's, of course, Polish, whatever, and listening to her going into some sort of like a gun show, whatever, and having to get guns, because of course that was one of her tasks to do, that Viola Davis's character told her to do. And at first she was trying to scope out who to go up to basically swindle enough to help her get these 3 guns without somebody mentioning or trying to give her a lot of grief about why you need 3 guns. And I just love how she did that scene where she played like she was vulnerable, her man's taking advantage of her, she's scared for her life, talking in her accent, in Polish accent, whichever. And the scene was hilarious because the woman standing there looking at her like, huh? But the daughter was like, mommy, it's like, didn't you say a gun is a girl's best friend? I died. That was the funny part, because everybody in the theater was dying laughing. And the mother decides to help her, whichever. And she's like, why do you need 3? She's like, I need one for every room of the house. Hilarious, hilarious. She was funny. I'm not familiar with Elizabeth Debicki as much with her and all that, but I might have to change that. Secondly, she has some scenes with another actor I've been watching since the movie he did called Witness with Harrison Ford, Lucas Haas, excuse me. He is one of those ones I've watched over the years. He was pretty good in this. He had nothing to do with the initial whatever they're doing with the heist, but he did help in regards to figuring out some floor plans for her, since he was a man who's like kind of like an architect. So she kind of used him in that facet. But I like how, you know, situations like with, you know, Michelle, Cynthia, Elizabeth, and Viola, when you're dealing with, you know, them, well, Cynthia not so much, but Michelle, Elizabeth, and Viola, the situation with them losing the men that they love, whichever, and coming to grips with that. You see, of course, the funeral parts, whichever. Of course, with Viola Davis's character, you know, Jamal and Jen Mateo are watching them. If you all saw the trailer, of course, they do the little wave or whatever. And of course, Colin Farrell's character plays a part because, like I said, Jamal's running for office. That's the character played by Brian Tyree Henry, and he's running, I think, to be, you know, I don't know if it's a local, like, you know, county executive, I think, or mayor or something of the town or whatever, of that state or whatever, because it's based out of Chicago, whichever, and a lot of people, you know, need a certain amount of votes, a lot of cred. He's wanting the pastor from the most prestigious, you know, church to come on board, but of course, you know, Manning, aka Colin Farrell's character, is trying to woo him himself. Robert Duvall plays the father to Colin Farrell's character. You could tell he does not want to follow the family dynasty. I will say this. There was a scene that was really good that I enjoyed, where it was a pacing of it for this one, where he's having some sort of, you know, gathering with all these different types of individuals who have had money given to them to help them start businesses. And it was for mostly female-based, black female, you know, owned businesses. And this reporter is trying to nag and ask these questions, all talking about some audit and this and that and other, all from the fact that his father did some certain dealings and stuff, whatever, and now he's left to deal with, you know, the ramifications, after effect of whatever his dad did, whatever that's coming to light, whatever. So he gets in the car and his assistants with him, and you hear them go from, you know, ranting and raving, him talking about this and her telling him to buck up, man up. The scene went from the space from where they were, which was considered like a rundown area, part of, you know, an area of Chicago, about 2 or 3 minutes time, whatever, him running, ranting, whatever, goes from that area that's poor, rundown, to the nice little elite neighborhood, whatever. And I just like how they didn't show his face. You saw the car, and it just goes. And it just goes. And eventually he's like, you know, thank you, such and such, to his driver, and gets out, and he goes in this beautiful, lavish, what looks like to be some sort of row house, but it's very massive, as if it was 3 row houses all together. It's so big, it's nicely gated, it was gorgeous. I love that scene because it was just like, you hear him, you see, you know, he's trying to work towards these people, helping them, whatever. Then he doesn't know if he has it in him to do this. I don't know if I want to do this. And she's like, oh, you just want to work a 9 to 5, whatever, and all that. You need to man up and do this with all that. You're the Mannings. You need to do this. You all do these things. And no, the Mulligan, excuse me. Jamal's character's a Manning. So yes. And just saying, it's the Mulligan dynasty, whatever. His father wants him to, you know, straighten up and do this, whatever, and all that. He doesn't want to because he just feels like it's tainted. He really wants no part of it, but he's trying his best to just go with the flow, whatever. But that was a good scene. I will say also, like I said, certain scenes with Viola going in her past, knowing she was having some issues and conflicts with her husband prior to this situation where she thought he died, you know, and he's gone. She's trying to deal with it, whichever, and thinking about what happened to their son. Just a whole bunch of stuff. There's a couple of things that will be spoiler, and I don't want to give them away. But like I said, the pacing, it was okay for what it was. Overall storyline, slightly at times could be considered cliche, whatever. But yeah, it was good for what it was. I mean, honestly, I've seen movies similar to this for like this. If you're trying to put something together and you're trying to deal with somebody's loose ends, whatever, and all, you get caught up in the commotion of all the things to do what you need to do, whatever, to stay focused. Or somebody's trying to, you know, get at you, whatever, and also you won't get whatever you need to get, whatever, so you can get out of this, you know, situation, whatever, because there's always somebody trying to thwart that whole situation, whatever, but you have to stay focused. I will say another thing, Daniel Kaluuya's character, Jamal was the brains, the calm, you know, the talking to it and all. Even though he had his moments when he confronted, you know, Viola at the penthouse, whatever and all, he was rather ferocious with that. He's more of the talker. Daniel's more so of the physical contact, where he wants to get home his, you know, feelings of what he wants from you. He brings his, you know, his little muscle guys, but then and he does most of the damage. And I'm gonna tell you, there's a couple scenes with him where he's just like, you all see in the trailer that part where it looks like some guys might be rapping or talking, he's all up in his face. That scene was really cutthroat. There's another scene where he's really doing harm to this one man. Mind you, the man can't even walk, and he didn't care. It was just like, wow. No emotion, does not care. He's just trying to get it. But then let's just say that everything always comes full circle. You might get the upper hand for a moment and all, but then it always comes back on you. And sometimes you got to learn the hard way. But yes, he was really good in this. One thing I can say about him, even though I like when he plays a good guy, whichever, of course, everybody likes to remember him from Black Mirror and, of course, Get Out, whatever and all that. But, of course, how he was became a little bad on the bad side of, working, in Black Panther. But in this one, straight, cold, don't care. Doesn't care, it's a means to an end to handle whatever business needs to be dealt with so his brother doesn't get his hands dirty, he'll get his hands dirty. But yes, overall, like I said, the movie, I actually enjoyed it for what it was, but I said the pacing was rather slow, at times or whichever. Besides that, I will say Michelle Rodriguez, she was definitely a little different as being that she was a parent in this one. And very subdued and very somber, a lot of this, whatever. It wasn't a lot of kicking and fighting, whatever, like you see in Fast and Furious, whatever, and all that. She's just playing a mom, whatever, who wants to know that her kids will be taken care of. Mommy's doing what she needs to do, whatever. None of that, bad assery that you normally see from her, whatever. She was definitely a little different in this movie compared to all the other things we're used to seeing where she's kicking butt and doing things, whatever, and all of that. So that was rather a little difference that I was not used to seeing with her, but it was refreshing. Now for Cynthia Erivo, I will say this is my last part to discuss on this. Like I said, she was just a worker who worked at a salon, and then she does on the side make money for babysitting, and that's how she comes in involved because she ends up being a babysitter for Michelle Rodriguez's two kids. But then when their driver doesn't work out, they ask her to come in the fold, whatever, to be a driver, and then she'll get her cut. So I like how that happened to to kind of get her, because I was like, they have her on the the poster, and I'm like, when you see the movie, you're like, no, she ain't no widow. That's interesting, but it's fine, just a turn of events, whatever and all. They just had to get the flow back on. But yes, the part of the heist was done really good. I enjoyed that part. Like I said, can't really tell you what happens towards the end, but I will say the ending, I just hate when it's always so lackluster and don't give you a little bit more. Like, not to say I need a full conclusion, but give me more than what you show and what an ending. I don't know what's going on with these endings in a lot of movies as of late. It's like they don't even try. When you see all the four different ladies and what they're going through, maybe a couple of them you see what's happening, but the other ones, they don't flush out enough for you to know what's been happening, what's been going on, how much time has really passed. You don't know what's going on. And that's the only part I can say I really had a problem with, really, overall in the movie, so to speak. So, but out of a 10, I give it about a 7.5. Like I said, it was good, whatever and all that. Storyline was fine, whatever and all that. The interconnected type of, scenes, with certain characters, like I said, namely Veronica, Viola Davis's character. I wish, if you'd have to be a rocket scientist not to see what's really was going on, whatever. I figured out what was happening, but it was just like, what does this have to do with what they're trying to deal with the heist, with this Booker husband left to deal with a new plan to get this money they can finally get or whatever. I just, some parts, it was almost like they were just trying to do a little bit of a filler to fit it into that. So, but that's just my take on that. So, but you guys, comment below. Let me know if you all saw the movie, what you all think overall for the movie as well. And with that said, I will see you guys on the next review. You guys take care.